I'm at the age where I cannot see up close or far away. God has a really great sense of humor. I'm like, can I see you? I can't see you. I need the readers. I need the distance. I am really super excited to be here, and you will discover throughout my time with you today that I'm super hyperactive. So the hardest thing was to just sit through the morning. And when Joe started talking about, get in your body and, feel your toes, my toes were like, what the hell are you doing? They're squeezed into these really tight, pointy shoes, and they were not having fun. And then the belly, and I was like, great, after lunch, I could just walk around saying I have a lot of self-doubt. Why? Because us women, we're very sensitive to our bloating. It seems to be a thing. I want to play a song for you. I noticed that Rock to Recovery was out there. Yeah. So we do on our campus, do Rock to Recovery. And I'm a fan. So let me play a little something for you. And again, I can't see. Here we go. All right. Evanescence, bring me to life. Bring me down into my core where I become so numb. Without a soul, my spirit sleeping somewhere cold. Until you find me there and lead me back home. Wake me up and start. If I could sing y'all, I'd be killing it right now. That's the only thing I cannot do. Save me from the dawn. Wake me up before I come undone. Save me from the nothing I've become. If you've not heard it all the way through, y'all, I don't even know what to say. You got to get there. Because it is the greatest description I've found of addiction and of trauma. Addiction is trauma. If you never had trauma in your life, if you don't identify with that, if you don't have that history, if you had that perfect childhood where everything was given to you, love, unconditional compassion, kindness, regard, care, sensitivity, then I want your phone number because you're the only person on the planet I met that got that kind of childhood. The perfect childhood. I was really pissed off with my therapist the first time he identified for me that I didn't have a perfect childhood. I didn't have that story, I didn't have what looked like trauma. I didn't have the abusive parent. I didn't have the active alcoholic parent. I didn't have an absent parent. I didn't have a divorce. I didn't have sexual abuse in my home. So how did I get so screwed up? Why was I so twisted around relationship? I am a recovering codependent, a flaming recovering codependent. And it makes for a great therapist. So, those of you out there wondering, you can make a living at your codependency. It's a beautiful thing. Yay me! But in that process of discovery, I felt this incredible emptiness, this hole in my soul that I could not understand or make sense of. And I needed to feed it. And it didn't matter how it was going to get fed, but I needed to feed it. And that emptiness and that darkness became depression for me. And the monster that I battle and the disease that I carry is depression. And when I go into that dark place without a soul, without a hope, without a light, Suicidality was my out. It made perfect sense to me to take myself out. Anyone who's ever been in active addiction knows that feeling. Yes? You get to that desperation. You get to that point where nothing will help me. So please end me. Please take me out of my misery. That is the soul of recovery. It's digging into the deepest parts of yourself. It is the existential truth of all humans to search for meaning and purpose. And when we don't have that, the emptiness is so huge, we wish to annihilate ourselves. I do this thing called psychodrama. It's kind of dramatic. It might be a little bit traumatic for some people. Sorry when they go through it with me. Actually, some of you in the audience have gone through it with me and survived, living to tell the story. So when I do this process, and I recently did it, New Directions, with a client, they are used to sitting in groups and talking. And what addict and alcoholic amongst you cannot tell a good story? Because y'all are some good storytellers, let me tell you. And you keep that story going, so whatever the purpose of the facilitator was goes right out the window because they got lost in your story, right? And it's a way to protect ourselves and to defend against the enemy coming in. And the enemy is that clinician or that counselor or that facilitator. And they are because they're looking inside of you to find something that you haven't seen within yourself. And it's the frickin' truth. And none of us want to face the truth when we get to that place of absolute desperation and absolute hopelessness. We don't want to let go of the only thing that ever did serve us, and that's drugs and alcohol. So you bring someone into treatment and you say, I am going to take your best friend away from you forever. And what kind of reaction do you get to that? Like, thoughts? Anybody? Do people go, yeah, sure, man, here you go. Here's my dope, here's my bag, here's my drug dealer, here's my phone number, here's my weed. Let's go search my car. I got some more stuff in there I want to voluntarily give you. They're like, you ain't touching my stuff. Why do you got to search my car? Why do you got to search me? I'm clean. Very creative places that people find to bring drugs into treatment. Who knew? I mean, seriously, I'm like, wow, good for you, man. That ingenuity is incredible when it's used for good. When someone is fearlessly searching for what that thing is that's going to feed their soul, that is the greatest open door for spirituality. Now, many of you know that people come in agnostic or atheist, right? Yes? No? You know this? How many of you go, I'm not going to program. That's Christian. I ain't doing that. I don't believe in God. You're not going to force that down my throat. And I always say, okay, I won't. Not today. I won't. But I'm going to infuse it in everything we do so that you won't even know what's happening to you, but a conversion is happening. And Joe described it beautifully. When he began to meditate and he felt that sense of peace and it was intoxicating, Joe said, I'm hooked and I'm going to get me some of that. And Lindsay described it in her fitness. When I feel those endorphins kick in, y'all ever had runner's high, those of you who run? I've gotten too old now to run. I'm pretty pissed off about it. Because when I run now, I feel everything, and I'm like, whose plan was this? You know, God in the divine wisdom was like feeling every joint, muscle, ache, and pain, and anything you got going on that isn't like totally tight and in tune, you feel that it's like this whole jiggling process that happens, you know? And I'm like, oh my God, that's not supposed to wiggle like that, you know? When you do fitness, which I'm a fanatic, and I work out every single day. And my husband and I, when we started our practice, was because we were into it. When I was 13 or 14, and that's when my brother first sought out substances for what was ailing him, I didn't know what to do, because he's my guy, and I would follow him to the ends of the earth. So I was feeling that hole in my soul, and I remember going out my front door at 14, and I start running. And I'm like, why am I running? I have no idea. And I keep running, and I keep running. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to run now. And I kept running and running and running until finally one day, this beautiful, incredible, euphoric feeling came over me, and it was runner's high. And I thought, oh my God, I've died and gone to heaven. That's what an addict and an alcoholic feels when they seek that bottle. That first time that you had that moment and you said, oh my God, I've died and gone to heaven. You would do anything to repeat that feeling. The fact that normies, like myself, I'm so far from normal, I just didn't get the thing. I got all the ism, it didn't stick with me. So I got to suffer with depression the majority of my life without the relief of a substance. Now that's a hell like no hell you ever want to go to. But with the addict in that moment and that euphoria, why would any professional, anyone who's a counselor or in a treatment center question why they did it again? I'd look at them and go, are you high? Because if you felt that good, you would do anything to feel that good again. Not knowing how to let go of that. Not knowing how to stop. Being physically incapable because of the obsession, right? And the change in the body. The physiology of the body now says, I need you above all other things. And when you're on that fearless search for that euphoria through your addiction, you're wreaking havoc through your life. You're trashing it. One trauma after the other. Losing children, losing spouses, losing homes, losing jobs, losing your mind, losing parts of your body, ability to function, and the worst thing is you lose your integrity. Anybody relate to that? Being a person that you never thought, that you can't even imagine that you are, all of a sudden shows up in your life. And you got to look at that person every day in the mirror. So when someone says, hey, I'm going to take the only thing away that helps you look at yourself in the mirror, no wonder you're going to fight them. No wonder our clients are resistant to treatment. You want them to come in all like, I'm going off to detox, I'm so excited. They're like, 2 more hours. How many of you do intake and admissions? The call starts at 7 a.m. Oh, I'm coming now to, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3. The client's coming in at midnight because I ran out of dope and money. And that's when they're coming in. It's like that last hurrah. It's a desperate act. And it is a desperate act to put it down. All sense of desperation. In that moment, you have to hold on to, even if it's for a second, I'm dying right now. That awareness has to come in. Your own self-destruction and annihilation has to come in to be followed by willingness and surrender. That's why we have that expression, you haven't hit your bottom yet. Now, we get very complacent, and we say to people, oh, you haven't hit your bottom yet. So then we're inviting a lack of hope for the person who maybe needs to come in again and again and again, and then thank God finally surrenders before they die. There's a part of us that is judgmental and skeptical, especially those who get further along in their recovery. Don't ever forget where you came from. Don't ever forget what made you put that drink down. Spiritual awakening comes even to the atheist When Joe had that moment and he felt so at peace in his own body, just for simply being, that's a spiritual awakening. And it's different for everybody. Don't limit your clients by saying to them, I don't know if you're going to get this. I've said it. Have y'all ever said it? I mean, I can admit that I've said it before, like, I don't know if you're going to get this. Because I'm looking at something real scary sitting in front of me. I'm looking at somebody dying. One of the hardest things to do that I've noticed is to hang on to that compassion. So how many of you have worked in the field 10 years? Okay. How many 20? Bravo. How many 30? How many 40? Anybody? I'm at 33. How do I still care so much? And I'm not saying that, oh my God, I'm so fabulous. No, I seriously care so much with every human that sits in front of me. It has everything to do with mindfulness, but it has everything to do with acknowledging my frailty, my own limitations. We forget as we recover that we were screwed up. As a codependent, I was married to an abusive man, not my husband who's sitting here in the front row, who's fabulous and perfect, wonderful. Well, he's not, but he is pretty fabulous. But the girl from the perfect childhood that had no abuse and no active alcoholics and addicts in my home married a nut job. He was dry. I now know that today. He gave up drugs for me. Yay, me. And then took out all his shit on me. All the resentment, all the anger, all the self-loathing, all the self-pity, all the self-hatred, I was the target for. When he was done with me, I said to him, I feel like a piece of dirt under your shoe and I don't know who I am. Because my disease was him. I was addicted to him being abusive to me. Anybody relate to that insanity? Some of y'all hiding. You don't want to see, you're like, girl, I'm not going to admit that in public. What is wrong with you? You can do that up on stage. Good for you. I'm not going to share that. It's too personal. You got to make it real personal. Your clients don't identify with you because you're Gina Tabrizy, license, whatever freaking letter number, XT, K.55. They don't give a shit. Sorry, I curse. Haven't said the F word yet. I'm really working on it. It's coming. They don't care. You know what they care? That you look at them like they're a human being that matters. That you say to them, my heart aches for the pain that you're in right now, because I know that pain, and I would do anything to stop that pain. I hope you're willing to do anything. I hope you are, but I don't know that for you, but damn it, I'm holding the hope for you until you get some for yourself. You can't just sit in a room and be complacent. These are lives. These are people dying every single day, every minute of the day. You don't know what's going to get through that addict. So come guns blazing, bring all your game. And don't ever stop and don't ever give up on somebody. What the hell if somebody gave up on Joe? He wouldn't have been here this morning to do that beautiful work that he did with us. Do you get that? That's a fucking miracle. Oh, I said it! I'm from New York originally, and my parents are Cuban. So when we talk, my people, you know, we go like this. Every other word has got to be cussing. And it's not because you're mad or anything. It's just because you're happy. And you say, oh, fuck, that's great. I loved you. Humor gets me through a lot, like Joe. Right, Joe? Are you feeling me, Joe? I love you, man. You did awesome. And Lindsay, you too, but I can't see. And you're blending in with the other blonde ladies in the room. So thank you, Lindsay. You're beautiful, and I love you, and you're awesome. Yeah. And thank you for being brave and coming up. And me too. My little girl is like, well, oh my God, what are you doing? She's the one whose toes I shoved into these cute little shoes that are not practical. Right? Sometimes, I'm a slave to fashion. So you have to come guns blazing. The soul of recovery requires our soul to speak the language that the patient or the client can hear. If you're not on fire about what you do, you're doing a disservice to your patients. If you're burnt out and you're tired and you're kind of over it, then step away and let someone else who's not tired, who wants to see that miracle happen and be present for that, let them show up and do the heavy lifting. I got burnt out. Dude, 33 years is a long time. One patient at a time. I got very burnt out. And so what I do is I give up parts of my practice and stay where I had energy so that I wouldn't harm someone. God gave me a gift, because that's how God is, apparently. And I got cancer. And when cancer came, after years of suffering depression, and I had prayed over and over again for mental wellness, please let my mind be well. I'm so tired of this. And I was seeing patients, and I'm going to tell you, nobody knew. I have a great mask, Nobody knew except my husband how much I was suffering. I had to make a living. I have children I have to feed, these 2 neurotic dogs, some in-laws situation, I raise great people and lousy dogs. I don't know what that is. God bless you, dog people. I'm like, who are you? What language are you speaking? Like, I have all this love. Crazy dog, neurotic. So in that, and in my own healing, when cancer came, I said, oh my God, I forgot to ask for everything. I limited myself. I only asked for mental wellness. I didn't ask for physical wellness. I just neglected that part of myself because I had suffered for so long in my own body. And so I thought, okay, the lesson here is I have to be more specific. There's many lessons that came with cancer. That was one of them. Any cancer survivors in the room? God bless you. Yeah, I clap for them, please. That shit sucks. God bless you. I got real spiritual with cancer. You're running out of time. Death is no longer something that's evading and is a far distant cry from where I'm at. It's right here, right now. Talk about being in the present moment. I sat in that room and I looked at that doctor and I was bewildered. I'm vegan. I work out every day. I take supplements. I've always taken care of myself, and cancer came anyway. So go drink soda, go smoke, eat some McDonald's, go for it. I wasted a lot of time eating healthy. What was the point? Anyways, my cancer was hormonal, so it was a whole different animal. But still, go have some soda, go have fun. I don't care. It's like, I'm going to go when I'm going to go. That's the reality of having death come visit you. I'm going to go when I'm going to go. I am absolutely powerless over my life. That is the truth of every addict and alcoholic. Get that in your bones. Get there with them. You are absolutely powerless over this disease. You will always be. Is recovery possible for you? 100%. Because you deserve it. Because it's yours. Because you're entitled to it. When we come into this with a belief that it's good for her, it's not good for me, she should get recovery, but not that one. That one's a loose cannon. It's for everybody. When you came into this earth and you began to breathe, you had that divine right. And you don't have to believe in God. It could be your higher power. It could be the amazing trees that are outside. whatever, that fire, natural elements, whatever it is that you believe, but something greater than your very small self, because we are all this small in comparison to the universe. But when you come into this world and you breathe, you have the divine right at that moment to have the life of your choosing. You are precious just for breathing. So all the crap that comes after that, everybody else's idea of who you were supposed to be, not your own divine script, but everybody else's idea, that's trauma. You came into the world precious and perfect and absolute, and other people started questioning you. Other people started saying, you're not enough, honey. You're not going to cut it. You're not right. You're not good enough. I'm ashamed of you. When are you going to grow up? You should be seen and not heard. You're too loud. You're too silly. You're too fat. Anybody hear those messages? Thank you for being honest about that. And you got other ones. You don't matter. I don't have time for you. Can you just go? I don't have time for you. We got those. Anybody get those messages? Those unavailable parents that were so busy, they weren't abusive, they just didn't have time for you. They just were gone. And you don't know why. And you were raising yourself, and you don't know why. When that child came into the world, that child didn't have the ability to raise themselves. And without unconditional love and regard and kindness and care, that child experiences trauma. And there's no better place to introduce addiction except to that child who's traumatized and full of shame, full of self-doubt, self-loathing, and self-hatred. It is the beautiful marriage to bring in addiction to that traumatic experience. You don't have to have all the big bells and whistles, sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse. You just could have a little bit less than nurturing, a little bit less than what you needed, a little bit less than being seen, regarded, heard, loved, validated. Anybody ever need to be validated? Oh, come on, y'all, we all do. It's our nature. I want you to see me, and I want to see you. And I want to say to you, you're beautiful, like I did to Joe and Lindsay, who I just met today. Because their soul is beautiful. Because if you look at people in that way, you will stop your judgment and your criticism and your envy and your competitiveness with each other, and you will collaborate, as Jeremy said. The founding principle and purpose of all of this is collaboration. But it starts with you. If you're still harboring resentment and anger and hurt towards that precious child who was just trying to do the best that they can, or that 13-year-old who became the addict, and you still hate her, you still loathe him, then you're not quite there yet. You're still leaving a door open for the monster of addiction to come in and kick your ass. Right? Because it's an open wound, and we will always seek something outside when we have that affinity for addiction. We will seek something outside of ourselves to fix that open wound. And the answer is here. It starts with loving that precious child. It starts with admitting to ourselves that we were hurt and that we were wronged and that we're still treating ourselves as if we don't matter. Everyone has a little bit of I don't matter in them, a little less than nurturing, a little less than loved, and maybe I'm not worth it. We all have a little bit of that. But the addict feeds off of that. And the more you feed that animal, the more the addiction takes hold. In treatment, for the most part, what we do is we gloss over the trauma. And we give other band-aids. 90 meetings, 90 days. Go to the gym. Go to the nutrition class. Go to your therapist. There's these things that we do, that structure that is absolutely needed and necessary. But what we don't do is the real heavy lifting. we don't get them to go in and talk about the trauma, the grief, the abandonment. There is a woman who started the Solace Foundation, Amy Dunkel, right? She gives out the Narcan. She goes out on the streets and gives it to the homeless, right? So that they won't overdose. Why does Amy do this? Because her son died of an overdose, leaving treatment in a car with his friends who left him there to die. The guy literally went and walked over her son and ran out of the car so that the police wouldn't come get him, and left him there. Shocking, right? Does this happen every day? It does. What does it take for another human being to disregard the life of a human being so blatantly? You guys, what does it take? Any thoughts? Absolute unconsciousness. I have to be so out of my mind, and he was, because he was high, to not see that my friend is dying and walk over him like he does not matter, and all that matters is me getting out of this car and saving myself. Absolute unconsciousness. And the horror of that boy is he's still on the street, and Amy has seen him over and over again. You know the shame and guilt that man must be carrying to know that he could have changed that life? Her son, her precious, beautiful 23-year-old son. I have a 23-year-old that kills me. She told me the story. I was like, I can't even talk to you anymore. I was like, in tears. She's doing this training, and I'm just dying for her. But she didn't lose her humanity. She didn't go out there and be suing people and, picketing and I hate addicts, She's out there still trying to save the addict that's on the street. I mean, how amazing is that? How heroic is that? How selfless is that? That's the work in treatment, if you're working in treatment, is to be selfless like that. Is to put your guard down and to look at that person as the human being whose fragile life is right in front of you, and you have a decision to walk over them or not. Symbolically. To be everything and give them all that you have, your very best, bringing your very best game, or walk over them and ignore them and go, that one's not going to make it. She's not working a program. She's not following instructions. She's not showing up for group. How many of y'all have people that just don't show up for group? Right? And you're like, why aren't you going to group? What else do you have to do? Sitting in treatment. Just go to group. What's the big deal? You can't sleep all day. You're out of detox. You don't want to sleep anymore. The hyperactivity's kicking in. Go to group. Why? A resistance to believe that I am worth changing. A resistance to believe that I am worth changing and having better for myself. Mary, my roommate, should have better. Or Nick, my other roommate, should have better. I should not have better. It's unconscious, like an unconscious death wish. When you work, how am I doing on time? Because y'all, I could do this for 3 hours. I mean, bring it. Am I okay, Jeremy? Is that you? Just wave if it's you. Okay, it's you. Handsome man in the back row. Everybody's handsome to me right now because I can't see anybody's face. It's fabulous. Y'all look good. Dang, you're looking fine. I hate this not being able to see thing. Thank you, God. There's some gift of me not being able to see what's right in front of me. Go figure. There's some symbolism, right? Staying in the present moment. In treatment, that is your role. To sit in front of that addict with all that vulnerability, all that truth, and share with them and be open with them. So therapists come in all the time and they're like, I remember this one therapist and she was like, I have a question. You walked out with the patient and walked her to her car. Is that allowed? I'm a human being, and so is she. Yeah, I think it's allowed. Because she was taught ethical boundaries that would blur the boundaries. And maybe you were taught that too, so I'm here to bust your bubble. Is the ethical boundaries might be violated because I walk her out. I go, we're two women. It's almost 10 o'clock at night in a dark parking lot. I say our odds are better if we stick together. I'm not taking her home with me. I'm not hopping in her car. Or we're not going to have sex. I mean, what were you thinking, you know? But it's the conditioning of dehumanizing in a way, holding the boundaries so rigidly that we're dehumanizing the experience of being with the client. You're a human being first. All them letters and whatever else you do, that's third, fourth, or fifth on your list of things that you are. Be human. Be present with your client. When we go in to do the work, and psychodrama is very abreactive, it's super emotional. I cry. And my interns will be like, is it okay to cry? And I go, do you see this? What's happening? I'm like leaking over here like a faucet. Yeah. Now, I don't sit there and go, oh my God, my mother, and you need to help me, and I don't know what to, I don't become the patient. I just weep with them. Don't you weep when you watch a movie and it just gets to you at your core? Name a movie that you saw that you couldn't help but have tears about. Oh, what was it? Braveheart. Somebody else? A Star is Born. Oh my God. So unexpected. I'm like, I just want to see Lady Gaga sing. You're hooking me up right now. I don't have any Kleenex. You suck, Lady Gaga. I was fine through the whole movie until the last scene. The very, very end, where he takes his life in the garage. I just blew it. Have you all seen it? It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Just pretend. Let's go into denial. Denial's a lovely place. We can all live there. I just blew it if you haven't seen it. But he kills himself. After all of that, he goes into treatment. He gets recovery. He's still stuck with that soulless feeling that the only way out is death. And it breaks your heart. And I was fine until then. And I'm with my daughter, my 18-year-old, because I want her to, I'm always exposing her to what might be possible. If addiction runs in the family, I'm always like, you gotta check this out. This happens. So she was crying periodically. She's not a big crier. And then at the end, as we're walking out to the parking lot, I lose it. I'm just like, oh, I couldn't stop. I'm hysterical. She's like, Mom, what's wrong with you? And I said, I'm gonna cry right now telling you guys, my godfather, that's how he died. He was an alcoholic. So many times I've packed that away. I didn't want to sit with that. I was in college. I was studying psychology, and I get that call. And I thought to myself, how didn't I know he was suffering? He was the happy drunk. He was always so happy, and everybody loved him. And when he was alone, there was nowhere for him to go except out. And so I sat in the pain of that. I guess I was too young. I guess I was selfish and self-absorbed and doing whatever, getting my degree, and I couldn't even grieve. But when I sat in that movie and here with you today, I'm grieving. It is not okay to lose a life like that. And we're losing them every day like that. And it's so not okay. We have to do everything we can. We're losing the battle. The odds are against us. And I feel to my core that the difference is bringing soul to the process of recovery. It's giving your heart, it's being authentic, it's showing love, it's hugging your patients and telling them, I love you, you're amazing. Not just good job today in group. I see you and I see your pain and it's real and you will stay with me. I say that to my patients, I see you. And I look at them like they matter, like you matter. And they stay with me and that's why I remember them. And hopefully they remember me when I'm out of their life, It's a blessing and a gift that you get to have, to be part of someone's life, that they will change their life and become who they were intended to be, is a miracle. And you treasure that like it's divine, like it's been given to you as a gift to treasure. Not to be pessimistic and not to be judgmental and critical, but to treasure that, you know? Think about the people that you've lost. How can you honor them? When you stay, you honor all those that you lost. You live the legacy for them. You honor them by telling their stories, by remembering them. The more that you talk about the loved ones and your ancestors that were here before you, that maybe suffered addiction or maybe suffered depression or cancer like myself, the more that you honor and remember them, the more they're right here with you in this moment and helping guide you. You don't have to believe again in that higher power. Believe in that process. Believe in what they gave you. When I speak, the one person I think of, my father. My cousin's here. My little cousin. And she loved my dad a lot. Because he gave me the gift of love. I didn't know what it looked like. I rejected it most of my life. But because I knew with total certainty that man loved me exactly the way that I was, it was the greatest gift I've ever been given. So he's always right here. And he was quite the storyteller, let me tell you. He was Ricky Ricardo for sure. He looked like him. He was funny like that. And all the time he'd be like, "Kid, I'm proud of you, kid." And then he'd go, "Now shut up, go get me some water, okay? Get me something to eat." "All right, Dad." He always saw me. What an amazing gift to just be seen exactly as you are, imperfect. How beautiful is that? That's what we get to do every day. If we stay, we get to look at each one of these patients and clients and give that to each other. Where we're failing, truly failing, is giving it back to each other. Counselor to counselor, intake person, outreach development person to therapist, CEO to CEO, to CCO, activities director, fitness director, to the art therapist. We're not loving each other the way we're asking our clients to love each other. It's why we went through this decade of unscrupulous practices, of unethical practices, of huge proportion of robbing and raping our clients emotionally, spiritually, and financially. Because we stopped loving each other and seeing each other and holding each other accountable for our actions and for the actions taken towards that precious client who was being trafficked for the almighty dollar. We stopped seeing each other and loving each other in our truth and holding each other accountable. Don't accept the unacceptable in your staff and in each other. What isn't okay for the patient isn't okay for you. Walk into your treatment center and see your staff. You can see them when they're burnt out, when they're terrified, when they're hungry, angry, irritable, discontent. Don't turn away. I've sent people home. I'm like, "Girl, what is going on? You're not right. What's going on?" You know, my first month at New Directions, we have this amazing care coordinator, which is a detox tech, mental health tech. And she looked wrecked. And when I come up to ask her, "Are you okay?" she starts sobbing. Have you ever just checked in on your staff like that? Just stop what you're doing and look at them and honor them the way you're asking them to honor the patients. Many of your people and my people get burnt out or leave because they're not seen. Because we take advantage of that graveyard person. They're amazing. What would we do without graveyard people, y'all? They rock, man. They deserve everything from us. Because we're not doing it. We're not in there at 2 o'clock in the morning when Susie and Bobby decide we're going to run off into the sunset and have a perfect marriage and 3 children, 2 dogs, and a white picket fence. Sober. Well, maybe not sober, but we're going to do it. Your beautiful, precious Jenna is the one running after these fools at 2 and 3 in the morning. What an amazing human being. Thank you. Clap for that. They are so precious. I don't know what I talked about this whole time. I really don't. I hope it was good. Or entertaining, at least. Or heartfelt. What I want to say, if you haven't thought about, the industry and what's happened, is we're responsible for what's happening now. And if you come to it with your integrity, with your recovery, with your heart, and with your passion and your love, then you're all right. But when you don't see your brother or sister in recovery doing the same, intervene. I intervened on that staff person that day who was sobbing, and I asked her what was wrong, and she says, I don't have enough money to feed my children. I about died. I was like, you're kidding me, and you're right here working, looking at me, 2 kids, single mother, barely making it, because she's cleaning up the wreckage of her past, y'all. She's got payments to everybody that she owes. And I said, this ain't right. And I said, honey, go to a meeting right now. She goes, I can. And I said, I'm telling you to go. So she walked off campus, she went to a meeting, and I said, when you're done, call me and tell me how you're feeling. And let me know. In the meantime, I'm taking another staff member, and we're going to buy you groceries and bring it back for you. I did that on my dime, not the company dime. Just so you know, because one of my peeps are here. I paid for it, Laura. Who cares what it would have cost me, honestly? Will you go out of your way to love the people that you are working with right now the way you're loving your clients? Because if you're not, you're being dishonest to them. It starts with you and your willingness to role model recovery and lead by example. Not just when they're watching you, all the time. Because otherwise you're selling them a promise of something that's dishonest, unless you're willing to be honest with them and with yourself. So they see me cry, and I hug them, and I tell them that I love them, because they, like myself, are precious human beings, and every single one of us deserves that. Always. No matter what you did, and no matter where you came from. So I'm going to speak that to you, and I want you to take it in for a minute. Am I good, Jeremy? 2 minutes, 5 minutes? So take a deep breath, eyes open or closed, and I want you to go inside. I want you to sink down into yourself. And I want you to find the place inside of you where you feel love. And I want you to breathe into that space of feeling of love. Absolute, unconditional love. Let it reside wherever it resides within you. Your heart, your abdomen, wherever you feel it. And I want you to look at that. Look at the color. Does it have a shape? Does it make a sound? If you listen to love inside of you, what sound would it make? And hear that sound. And see the color of it and embrace it. In the deepest part of that love, where you're visualizing that color and the sound and the shape of it, is you. And see yourself there, surrounded by the feeling of love, the essence of love, the color of love, the sound, the shape, the smell, the texture of love. If I could feel love in my hands, what it would feel like to me. And embrace it. And pull it into yourself. Look at that precious child who first was given birth and took that first breath. And say to that child, I love you absolutely, unconditionally, right now, in this moment. You are everything that you need to be. You are all that matters. And I will cherish you and carry you with me through all of my days. You are absolutely enough. Take a deep breath and take that real deep inside yourself. And invite that precious child into your heart where they can live. Don't leave them out here in the world where it's scary and people hurt them. Keep them real close. There will be nothing you do and nowhere you go without that child. That's you. It's your perfect essence. It's your spirit. It's your soul. So often in your practice, go in and find where that precious child is residing and remind them that they are loved today, no matter what their history says, no matter what they did, okay? In this moment. And that's the soul. That's the soul of recovery. And I'm done.